So good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 5th session of summer results training bootcamp thing. Thank you for joining us to talk about results today. To start us, I sent a link to a survey into the chat. You will find it in a chat. It's menti.com/something weird. So if you click on that, it will take you to the survey. So if you don't mind, please just click on it. And there is just one question, one bonus question, but basically just one question so we know where we are with the results. And I will send it again because new people cannot see it. Oops. Send it to everyone. Everyone should have that survey. And the question is, how do you feel about results comments? And you have three options. I have no problem understanding or writing them. Second option is I struggle with understanding or writing comments. And the third answer is, what are the results comments? Okay.
And for those of you wondering why we're covering this, just to remind you that we wanted to give you an idea of how, as examiners and even applicants, you should be looking at your results and what you can expect to see coming out. And also, if you go online and anyone ever posts their feedback report, an easy way for you to go in and understand what is being said for Sterling results. So.
And I will share results of this survey with you. So you should see it on your screen now. So we have 7 people who have no problem understanding or writing results, comments. We have 12 people who do struggle with understanding or writing the comments, and 6 people who are still wondering what are results comments. Okay, the numbers are still changing a little bit, but more or less we see that there is a big percentage of people who are still struggling with understanding or writing the results comments. So this just proves how important are sessions like this, where we have a chance to discuss the results, where we have opportunity to learn and better understand what we are supposed to do as an examiners or applicants when we are writing the application. All right. There is a bonus question for those who really like the survey feature, so you can answer that one as well. And while you do that, I'm gonna share my screen. Okay. So before we really start with this session here, just a few reminders about virtual meetings. So please mute your microphone when you are not speaking. And
Zuzana, you're sharing the presenter view, not the slideshow.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No worries.
Let's try again. I will get there, I promise. And you have the slides in a chat too, if you want to download them and have them available to you.
There you go.
How about now?
You're good.
Perfect. Thank you, Anthony, for keeping an eye on me. Okay, so please mute your microphones when you are not speaking, especially since these sessions are recorded. It's going to help with the quality of the recording for future reference. Turn your camera on if you can, so we can see whether you are engaged or whether what we are saying makes absolutely no sense. If you have any questions, please type them into chat or just unmute yourself and comment or ask whatever you see appropriate. So as I said, this presentation is in your chat for download, and all the sessions are recorded for your future use. If you want to review some of the presentations you were not able to attend, or if you want to share with your friends because you think that this is a really awesome presentation that everyone should see. So this is the 5th session about results. We had Gordon who was talking the first week about what to measure. Then we had Dr. Sampson who was talking about how to measure. We had Bob who was talking about comparisons and benchmarks. We had Anthony last week who was talking about how to use results to tell a story of the applicant. Today we're going to talk about results, feedback, comments, and next week Dr. Laura is going to talk about how to connect results and processes, that very important linkage. So today, feedback, comments, I have to say that I volunteered for this topic because when I was results lead for the first time, it was very challenging. It was a very steep learning curve, and I had really excellent team leads and backup leads who really helped me. But I thought it would be useful for new examiners or even existing examiners who haven't had a chance to really deal with the results, to understand what is the process that is happening at the background and what are really results leads and applicants dealing with when they are putting together their results and results comments. So the last session is going to be next week. I'm just going to get back to the slide. Next week, again, on Tuesday at 12. And that's going to be our last result session this summer. So our objectives today are understand what a feedback comment looks like, what information goes into the comment, how to use examples and how to use proper examples in the, in the results comments, how to create a groups of final comments, and also kind of talk a little bit about what gets left out of the grouping, or maybe of really final comments. This session is intended for applicants, so they understand what examiners are looking for in the results, and also for them to understand how to read the final comments they get from the examiners and how to use them to really take an action and maybe do some improvements. And the framework we use, of course, is Sterling or Baldrige, which is pretty much the same framework. So before we look at the actual comments, and we're going to do it in the later part of this session, I want you to understand the process of analyzing results and writing the comments. A lot of what results leads are doing is happening behind the scenes, and all those tasks are up to the results leads to complete. Let's talk about the steps in this process. So it all starts with the preparation, and preparation is mostly individual tasks that the results lead will work on, while other examiners will probably focus on the evaluation of process categories 1 through 6. So in preparation for later stages of the evaluation process, the results lead will, of course, review the organizational profile. They will review the key factors and basically the entire content of the application. And the reasons for this are several. So first of all, the factors will tell them what is important to the applicant, and especially what segments are they going to be looking for in the results category. Segments, for those of you who are not really familiar with the segmentation, both the results lead and also the process item leads will probably look for product and service segments, probably some customer segments, workforce segments, maybe some process segments, work operations segments. There is a very slight difference between how this results process is conducted with Sterling and with Baldrige. In Sterling, we have one expert, which is a results lead on the team, and they will conduct this entire process. They will do preparation, they will conduct the results calls, and they will write the final comments. In Baldrige, the situation is a little different. During the independent evaluation, we have all examiners who will review all 7 categories. So we will have a feedback from all examiners on all categories, which makes work of the results lead a little easier because they already have input from all other team members on the results category. So that's the only difference. In Sterling, there is one expert who is taking care of the entire process. In Baldrige, they got slight support from the entire team also during the independent evaluation. So once the team and the results lead, of course, go through the process of presentation, they conduct results calls, and then they will write comments. After the independent evaluation, once the team has better understanding of the results that have been presented by the applicant, and they understand the linkage between processes and systems that are described in process items 1 through 6, they can start scheduling results calls. And these results calls usually serve 2 main purposes. So first of all, to understand the results, how they are provided, and to interpret them. To interpret the results, it's basically very easy discussion. It should be fairly easy and fairly quick because it may just relate to some basic tweaks, to some basic questions. For example, if we don't see data labels in the charts or graphs, if we don't see which way on the chart is better, is it up, is it down? We don't know. Sometimes we can guess, but the whole premise of results lead is that they are not assuming, they are not guessing. Everything is based on a fact. So even if I guess that maybe way up is better, I'm not going to guess, I'm going to ask the applicant. So that's one of the purpose of having the results call. If things like this are missing, we can ask the question and the applicant can provide additional information. They can review the charts and provide the review charts back just to have those numbers, to have that that arrow that will show us which way is good. Sometimes we can ask whether there are any additional data points. So if we are not provided trends, maybe applicant has them available, but they were not able to provide it because, I don't know, size of the application and so on. So we can ask all those additional questions during the results calls. To understand the results, that's usually more complicated, and that's more of a discussion between the results lead and the applicant. And the reason for these questions is to understand why the result is important to the applicant, to understand how they collect that measure, how they track their measure, or where do they even collect them, to understand whether there are any segments, especially if we saw in the organizational profile that there are certain segments that applicant has been referring to, such as customer segments or workforce segments, but we see no segmentations in the results. That may be a good question to ask the applicant. Like, we saw those segments, how do you segment your results based on those groups that you mentioned in the organizational profile? And of course, to understand the linkage between processes and measures. So this is why we do results calls, to get all this information. Sometimes the applicant will have them available and they will be able to provide them. Sometimes they just don't have them, and that's fine. That's still a good outcome of the results, the results call to understand that they do not collect the information. The list of questions we're going to be asking the applicant is usually provided in advance. So both the team members, the results lead have an opportunity to prepare for the call. An applicant can make sure that they have people who can answer the questions to be on the call, so they have the right people on the call. So as you see, most of this work for the results lead is happening actually before the site visit. During the site visit, the results lead is mostly a support for other category leads. They provide examples, so the category leads 1 through 6 can really write strong comments. They have additional evidence of what is happening. So this is the basic process for the results lead. Okay, so once they receive the additional information during the results call, they have prepared for the call. Now it's time to start writing the comments. And as I said, this is usually happening before the site visit. So writing the comments is a process itself. It starts with writing individual comments and dividing them into groups. That's what you can see here in this light blue. Then they determine the importance, and they start writing the final comments, which you can see here in purple. Very important is coordinating with the team, getting their input based on what they read in their section of the application. And it's a two-way process. So team members will provide input for results. And on the other hand, the results lead will provide the other leads with the examples that they can include in their comments to make them stronger, to enhance them. And the last piece is writing key themes, which is the final piece that can happen during the site visit, after the site visit, but those are the main messages that we are sending to the applicant with our comments. We have already learned how to evaluate results based on the let's see evaluation factors. If you remember, Samson covered how to measuring activities versus outcomes, data normalization. So everything that has something to do with the performance levels in his session. Anthony explained how to use the trends to tell the story of the applicant. We had Bob, who was talking about comparisons to obtain actionable information and the importance of benchmarking. And we also had Gordon, who explained how to measure what is important, which is the key message of the integration evaluation factors. So let's see levels, trends, comparisons, integration. Those are the 4 main evaluation factors we use for writing Sterling and Baldrige comments. So let's look first at the individual comments. So to write individual comment, we are simply describing what we are seeing in the graphs, in the charts that were provided by the applicant. We are using very simple language that will be understandable to the applicant and the entire audience that the comments are intended for. And here is very simple example. It's a graph where applicant provides information about the graduation rate of their students. You can see that dark blue is the applicant, it's applicant's performance. Green is industry top decile, and red is industry average. And you can see that both industry average and top decile are following the same trend, versus applicant has obviously, they did something in the year 2015 to increase the performance from 89% to 92% and then 93%. So if we keep in mind the let's see evaluation factors, in the individual comment, in a comment for the applicant, that's exactly what we would write. Applicants' graduation rate increased from 88% in 2014 to 93% in 2017, exceeding the industry top decile of 91% in 2016. We could possibly also comment on exceeding the industry average, but because we have top decile, which is definitely stronger comparison, we can just skip that industry average and just comment on the top decile. What is important when writing these individual comments that we don't use the language that could be seen as judgmental or maybe prescriptive. So we don't use words such as poor, bad performance, or on the other hand, excellent performance, exceptional performance, or things like that. We just keep it very objective, very unbiased. We just basically describe what we see on the charts in very simple language. Once we have that, ideally we should have description of like that. We should have individual comment for every single chart that has been provided by the applicant. And once we have that, we can start grouping these comments. And we would group them by a specific criteria, item, or area. So we would group 7.1a, 7.1b1. So we would group them by the specific item or area where they are referring to, or we can group them by the entire item, 7.1, if it's a topic that is repeated throughout the results item. We sort the comments based on whether they are referring to the strength or opportunity for an improvement that the applicant has. So strengths will stay together, opportunities will stay together. We also can group them by evaluation factors. So we can have comments that are, we can have groups that are commenting on levels, we can have groups that are commenting on trends, groups on comparisons, or we can have any combination of thereof. So we can have groups of comments referring to levels and trends, or to all of them. So levels, trends, and comparisons. Do we have any questions so far? Any comments? Anything I may have forgotten? Okay. All right, so once we have the examples, the individual comments grouped by topic, by item, by evaluation factors, we'll use them to write final comments, and those comments will be provided to the applicant in the final feedback report. So all these final comments will be actually content of final feedback report for items 7.1 through 7.5. It is not necessary to use all the examples that have been provided. The results lead will make a call and they will select the strongest examples they can find in the results. So they really reinforce their main message. If the applicant is in the early stages of maturity and they do not provide enough results, then we'll try to use as many results as possible, because then it helps the applicant to understand what we are looking for in the results, and what should they probably include in the application for their next evaluation cycles. We will usually see this in the non-competitive applications such as challenge, where maybe the applicant still doesn't understand how to provide the most valuable results to us, what we are looking for. So in such case, we are really trying to help by providing as many examples as we can find in the results category. The final comments are intended for several audiences, of course, for the applicant. That's why we are doing the whole evaluation. The applicant is our customer. So, so those final comments are for them. They are for Sterling judges and Sterling counsel, so they can really understand where the applicant is in terms of results, whether there is a good correlation between results and processes, or maybe if there is a disconnect between results and processes, and then they can make the decision on how to approach the applicant, or if they are in a in a competitive process, maybe decide against other applications. And last but not least, the comments, the final comments are important for other examiners when they're writing their own comments for the applicant about processes. They can use results as their examples to enhance their comments. Okay, so this would be the structure of the final results comment. We will start the comment with an opening statement, opening sentence, and that sentence will contain the main message for the applicant. The subject is taken directly from the criteria language. So, for example, if we are commenting on 7.1a, we would refer to customer-focused product and service results. If we are commenting on 7.1b1, we would be talking about process effectiveness and efficiency, or maybe safety and emergency preparedness if we are commenting on 7.1b2. On the other hand, if we are commenting on 7.1b combined, we'll be talking about work process effectiveness results. This is very important because it allows the applicant to go back to the criteria and understand where the comment is coming from and what exactly should they be looking for. The verb we use in the opening statement is usually show or demonstrate. That's pretty set, that usually doesn't change much. What follows then is the overall evaluation. Here the language depends on whether we are commenting on levels, trends, comparisons, or integration. If we comment on levels, we'll be talking about good performance levels, good to excellent, excellent, unfavorable in case of opportunity. If we talk about trends, we will be talking about beneficial or adverse trends. And this is taken directly from scoring, results scoring guidelines. So we are really sticking to that language, which makes also scoring also much more easier or more straightforward, I would say. If we talk about comparisons, we can say that the applicant exceeds the comparisons or lags behind or approaches relevant comparisons or has good relative performance. In case of integration, we would say that results are provided for few or many areas of importance, and results are reported for most customer, market, process requirements, and so on. So it depends where the applicant is, but this is the language we would most frequently used in the overall evaluation. And then we would have specific examples that we prepared in those individual comments. And again, very specific, very straightforward description of what we observed in those charts, in those graphs. One thing, and this is again a little different between Sterling and Baldrige. In Sterling, we'll have all these results as a bullet points. So it's very, very structured, very straightforward. This in Baldrige, it looks a little different, and I will show you probably 2 slides from now how it looks in a Baldrige. But just to remember, in Sterling, the examples are as a bullet point, so they are listed very, very clearly with an opening statement, few examples, and that's it. So I know you have been waiting for it. So this is how a final comment looks like. And I will just give you a few seconds to read through that or scan through that. Not really necessary to read through that. Okay, so this is the example of a strength final comment. let's have a look at it. We have the subject that specifically refers to 7.1a, and it's customer-focused product and service results. So we find this specific language in the criteria. Then we have overall evaluation, which comments on trends, favorable performance levels, and comparisons. And then we have all these examples, as I said, as about bullet points. So this is how a structure of a final comment looks like. So all these final comments will be provided in a feedback report in items 7.1 through 7.5. This is another example, and this is opportunity for improvement for the same criteria, item 7.1a. So again, we have opening statement, opening sentence with a subject taken straight from criteria, so customer-focused product and service results. We have overall evaluation, which talks about unfavorable levels of performance, adverse trends, and liked relevant comparisons. So we are commenting on levels, trends, and comparisons. And then, of course, we have examples. We have 2 examples in this case. This is how it looks like in Baldrige. Structure is pretty much the same. You can see the same language. So supply network management, which is taken from criteria language, that's the subject. We can see the overall evaluation. So we have levels and trends. The only difference is that examples are in a sentence. They are not bullet points. And what do they, at the end of the comment, they add so what statement. And I will talk about that a little more. And the same for OFI. We have opening statement, we have overall evaluation, and a few examples. Okay, that brings us to the last piece of the puzzle, and those are key themes. The key themes are...
Zuzana, can you go back a slide quickly?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, I just, you know, the one thing with us as Sterling, you know, Baldrige has their own process, which, you know, meets what they need to do. We have our process. And, you know, when you looked at the audiences earlier, when we really put in a lot of that data, it really helps our judges out, and it helps you out too, to see right away what we're getting at. And that's why we, you know, we write differently than Baldrige, especially when it comes to results. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. This is mostly for maybe important for those applicants who will be applying for Baldrige Award in the future, just to understand that maybe what they see in our feedback reports is not exactly what they will see in a Baldrige report. And that's also for the examiners. We have some examiners who are doing both Baldrige and Sterling. So the process is a little different, but the message is always the same. It's always the opening statement and some examples. So yeah, thank you, Anthony. That was a good point. So key themes, those are the high level messages we are sending to the applicant and to all the audiences that the key themes are meant for. I've noticed that the key themes are the first things that the applicant's executive leadership will look at. They are not really they are interested in all the comments that follow in the feedback report, but this is the first thing they will look at, and that sends the message where they have overlapping, where they have like a major problems or maybe major opportunities they can look at, and where they have major strength. So that's why key themes are very important, because they are sending the main messages to our audiences. Good key themes are actionable, aligned, accurate, and appropriate. Of course, actionable, they should suggest to the applicant what they can do either to remain competitive or to strengthen their position to get better. They should be aligned. So there should be no conflict between process comments, process feedback, and anything we put into results. They should be accurate, and I talked about that. We are not judgmental. We are very objective. So we are sticking to a very simple and very exact language. That's why I spent some time talking about all the language we use in the comments, just to make sure that we are unbiased and we are evaluating every single applicant in the same terms. And of course, they should be appropriate. Sometimes, of course, the applications are written in a different style, so we are not commenting on the writing style of the applicant. We are just commenting on the facts we find in the application. A few things about key themes, and I borrowed this from the Baldrige. The key themes have three main elements, and it doesn't matter whether it's a Baldrige comment or Sterling comment, it's the same. It has the nugget, or the main point that gives the applicant the summary of the feedback. Then we have evidence, which is basically the examples that will just reinforce the main point we are making. And the focus is on choosing the right number of the best examples. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. And sometimes the best written comments are really not the longest, but really, really strong ones. And relevance. The relevance is the so what statement. So why is this important for the applicant? And how this may affect applicant if they don't do what we are suggesting they're doing, and what happens if they keep doing what they should be doing. Relevance is very important with OFIs, with the opportunities for improvement, because it really reinforces the main message we are sending to the applicant. And it also sends the message to the applicant that we really read through the application, we connected the dots, and we spend time on analyzing the results in terms of what is important to them in an organizational profile. Common key themes are in strengths, it would be some kind of combination of levels, trends, and comparisons. In case of OFIs, very often we will see missing results or expected results based on what we have read in the application, either in a process results, in a process categories, or in an organizational profile. Sometimes we'll see limited segmentation. So if applicant mentions segments in the organizational profile, but the results are not segmented in any way, well, that tells us that maybe they have an opportunity to look at those segments and find opportunities there. Sometimes the comparisons are not appropriate, or comparisons are missing altogether, and adverse trends. So those are the most common OFIs. Okay, so let's jump on the examples here. So this is an example of a strength key theme, and you can just scan through that, not really necessary to read it word by word. But when you analyze it, you will see exactly what we're talking about. The first opening sentence contains the nugget, the main message we are sending to the customers. So here we are talking about sustain good to excellent results levels. So we are talking about performance levels, of course, and benchmarks. Then we have some examples for electricity costs. Of course, since this is a grouped key theme, there will be more examples from probably multiple results items and areas. And the last is so what statement, so the relevance. And this one says, these results reflect the city's visionary leadership. So if they keep doing what they are doing, they're strengthening their leadership. And they link it to the organization's values of outstanding service and stewardship. So here, this is taken exactly from the applicant's organizational profile. We learn about their values, and we say that if they do all these that they have been doing, they will keep strengthening their leadership. So this is an example of a strength, and I also have an example of OFI, opportunity for improvement. So again, the same structure. We have opening sentence, that contains the nugget, and the nugget says that the city, in this case, the applicant was the city, may benefit from comparisons and benchmarks. Then we have the example. For example, the city has an opportunity to compare segmented results for customer satisfaction, and so on. There are more examples here. And the last sentence is the relevance. So what? So why is this important for the applicant? And here we have use of world-class comparisons and benchmarks are essential to a culture of management by fact, which would support the core competencies of culture of excellence and continuous improvement, driven by the city's mission, vision, and values. So we learn in an organizational profile what is important to the applicant, and here, with this sentence, we tie this nugget to what is important to the applicant. So if they use comparisons and benchmarks, they may support their core competencies. So this is how the structure of the key theme looks like. Any comments, any questions?
Yeah, just one thing to add, Zuzana, and you notice a lot of that relevance in there. It's tied to what we call the core values and concepts of Sterling. Things like world-class comparisons, benchmarks leads to management by fact. That's a core value. Earlier you saw visionary leadership as a core value, valuing people. A lot of times our key themes, it's harder to do with results, but we will try to make sure that a key theme is based on a core value.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Felix. So I want to be respectful of everyone's time, so I will just go through the rest of the slides we have here. What is important for results lead and the team is to work together as a team, not to work in a vacuum, but have that two-way communication. So the team members understand what is in the results and can use those results to improve their comments and to add value to their comments. And on the other hand, to provide input to the results lead of what they found in the process items and whether there is really any disconnect between the processes and the results. If we found processes, and I keep doing it. If we find processes with the results, there it may be such a situation that happens when the process is possibly new. It's something they have just implemented. They may be results without processes. That happens if probably the applicant was limited by the number of pages they're allowed to put into applications. In such case, they could clarify that during the site visit or results calls. Or maybe it's something that is not well documented on an applicant side, so processes are missing any kind of documentation. Okay, that brings me to the last recap of our objectives. So we talked about what a feedback comment looks like, what information goes into the comment. We talked about the examples and how to group them, how to write final comments and key themes. And does anyone have any questions or any comments about anything we talked about today? Okay, so the session is recorded. You will find it on Sterling YouTube channel. If you have any questions or if you want to reach out to Sterling, these are the contact points. And thank you for attending this session, and thank you for listening to me for 60 minutes, and thank you for participating in the exercise.
Great. So